Okay, in this video clip, we are going to have a look at how to actually set up Scratch to make a game. So it works a little bit differently than how you'd normally make a Scratch presentation, because normally you'd come along and you'd add in a block and then you would just add in the sequence of steps that you would want it to take, and then at the end you hit play and it just follows that sequence down. With a game, it works a little bit differently. The reason being is that when we use the if statements, we want to actually have a loop going around and around and around, so the game never ends until we've actually triggered some form of end game state. So for instance, you lose all your lives, or you get a certain score, or you get to the end of a level and you touch a flag or something like that. So let's have a look at that. So I've made a little presentation here just to show you. And this is what we've got. So this is a nice breakdown of how a game should look. There's three parts to it. You've got your introduction, you've got your body, and you've got your conclusion at the end here when the end game state has been achieved. So if you look up here, your introduction is just simply setting up the game, setting score to 0 because you don't want the score to carry on from the previous game. If you had lives, you'd want to set it to 5. Here we've got the starting position for the main player and the starting size for the main player. But then I've also got this little sequence happening here before the game starts that simply just says ready, set, go. Now you could change that up. You could have a really fancy animation there for ready, set, go. You could have the player walk onto the level, and say something, whatever you really want there. But you put all that introduction in there. Then the game starts, and you can see this big repeat loop here. Now this repeat until loop is the game, and everything that is the game goes in here. And we can see it's asking repeat until is finished. So we're repeating until the game is finished. And so the character's going to follow the mouse here. If it touches a ball, it's going to get extra score. And then if it touches the pufferfish, we can see here that it's going to change the end game state is finished to 1. So now the game will continue going on and on and on, collecting pufferfish, collecting balls, getting score until you touch the pufferfish. As soon as you touch the pufferfish, endgame state now equals 1, is finished is now 1, and therefore this repeat loop now stops. The game is over, and then we jump through to the conclusion. The conclusion, now we can stack as many things as we like here. We can have a big animation, but in this case I just said, say game is over. So now we go back into a sequence. So really these three parts here are what you need to make a game. You need your introduction code, you need your body code, which is the game itself, and then you need the conclusion. So let's just quickly go ahead and put that into Scratch. So we'll get rid of this and we'll start with our flag here, and let's have our introduction. So we're going to start our cat about here, and we're going to go to put a go to in. And if you notice with the go to, if you move the sprite to the position that you want, it'll change the numbers here, so you don't need to work them out yourself. Just say, look, I want to start the cat here, and now drag it in. And now the starting position's there. And you can set angle and size and everything else there as well. But now we want to create a variable. And you can call it whatever you like, but for me, just asking the question, is it finished, is really what I want to call it. And I want to always set that to 0. So now the game's basically, when it finishes this and we go into the loop, we know the loop is going to run. If you forget to do that, what happens is the second time you play the game, it'll remember that the finish state's actually 1 already because you've played through the game once. And then the game won't play, it'll just jump straight through to the end. So I'll go ahead and turn that off so we can't see it. And now let's go ahead and add in our repeat until loop. So here's our repeat until down here in control. I'm going to put that in, and I need to set up my statement in there. So I'm asking, is finished equal to 1 And let's pop that one in there as well. And there we go. So now it's going to keep going. This loop's going to go forever until is finished equals 1. So let's quickly put something in here. So we'll put in an if mouse is down. Actually, let's do something a little bit different. Okay, let's do is key pressed. And we'll go is right key pressed. And I'm just going to simply move right. Actually, I'm going to change that. Let's look at a quick... Actually, no, I'll leave it there. We'll have a look at that in another video clip. So move right, and then if... left key is pressed, we want to move -10. Now if we play this, we actually see that that loop will go forever, and we can simply just move left and right. Now we need to have an end game state to be able to break this loop. So I'm going to go ahead and put in an apple, and our really challenging game is to collect the apple. So let's quickly do that. So now we want if the player is touching the apple. Now what do we want to do? Well, now we want to change that is finished to 1, because now this becomes true, and now this loop will end. So that's declaring our end game. And then at the end, we're now in the conclusion. How do we want to finish? Well, let's just say yum. Okay, let's give it a go. So we've got our loop, and we can see here that it's looped around forever because it's highlighted. So this code's actually working right now. We can move back and forward, and as soon as we touch the apple, we hit the endgame state. This changes to 1, and now it drops down here and it says yum. There we go. So set up your loops like that, and you're going to have a game up and running really quickly.